Imagine it's the height of the Cold War. The year is 1960. On one side, we have the USA, and on the other, the USSR. Both superpowers are squaring off against each other, not with armies or weapons, but with machines. Not just any machines, mind you, but thinking machines, artificial intelligence. But hold on, rewind. Let's go back to the beginning of this story. The United States, ever since World War II, had been pouring significant resources into figuring out how to make machines think. They set up a whole agency called DARPA, which has the word artificial right there in its name. DARPA ran all sorts of wild projects, from self-destruct mechanisms that could be activated by a person or a timer to figuring out how to get computers to understand natural language. But then something interesting happened. In the late 50s, the Russians did something that shocked the Americans. They launched Sputnik, the first satellite to ever orbit the Earth. This wasn't just a huge leap for Russia in the space race, it was also a wake-up call for the US. They realized that if the Russians could do this, they might also be working on figuring out how to make machines think. And if that happened, well, that could be a real game changer. Now, here's where things get interesting. While the US was busy launching satellites into space, the Russians were making some serious moves in the field of AI. In 1960, the Soviet newspaper Pravda published an article that sent shockwaves through the American AI community. The article claimed that Soviet scientists had created the world's first computer capable of playing chess at a master level. It was like a declaration of war, but instead of bombs and bullets, it was a war of the machines. So in response to this Russian AI chess move, the US did what it does best, poured money into research. They created something called the Machine Intelligence Research Program, or MIRP for short. The goal was simple: create a machine that could do something that was considered impossible at the time, playing checkers at a grandmother level. But it wasn't just about checkers, it was about sending a message to the Russians. If they could do it, so could the US, and they would do it better. The Russians weren't going to take this lying down, though. They had their own secret weapon, a man named Nikolai Vsevolodovich Stolyar. He was the head of the Institute of Precision Mechanics in the Soviet Union, and he was tasked with one mission: create your own AI chess master. The stakes were high. If the Soviets won, they would prove that their AI was superior to the Americans. If the Americans won, well, they'd just have to try harder next time. It was a battle of wits between two superpowers, but it was also a battle of technology. The Americans had one advantage: access to the world's most advanced computers. But the Russians had something else: experience. They had been working on AI for years, and they had a head start that they weren't about to give up. The Cold War AI race was on. Both sides raced to develop the most advanced AI technology. The US created programs that could beat grandmasters at checkers and even chess. The Soviets developed systems that could predict weather patterns and control complex industrial processes. It was a battle that would push the boundaries of what machines were capable of doing. But it wasn't just about checkers and chess. It was about more than just proving who was smarter. It was about control. The ability to make machines think meant having the ability to do things that were previously impossible. It meant having an edge over the competition. In the end, the Cold War AI race didn't end with a bang, but with a whimper. The fall of the Soviet Union in 1991 put an end to the competition, but the legacy of that race lives on. Today, we live in a world where machines can do things that were once thought to be exclusive to humans, and we have the Cold War to thank for that. So the next time you play a game of chess, remember that you're replaying against a machine that was created because of a war that was fought with machines. It may not have been a war that we talk about in history books, but it was a war nonetheless. A war that was fought not with bombs and bullets, but with bits and bytes. A war that was fought not on battlefields, but in laboratories. A war that was fought not by soldiers, but by scientists. A war that was fought not over land or resources, but over code. a war that was fought not with weapons, but with machines. The Cold War AI race, a war that never ended.